Welcome in everybody to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and today we're going to play another game of Would You Rather, but this time we're going to use the wide receivers. So Derek Brown, Andrew Erickson, and myself are going to sit down and have a conversation about two wide receivers or even three wide receivers on the same team, but different values in the draft right now, different ADPs, and we're going to debate who the best values are for our draft day dollars. And some of the answers could surprise you, and we're going to get into those names right now. Let us look ahead to the wide receivers and play a little game of Who Would You Rather. This one, the stakes are up a little bit here because we're talking about some huge impact players that sometimes you have to make an early investment in, or maybe there's a pivot point as well. And I think this is a really interesting conversation. Again, these are guys on the same team, not necessarily the same ADP though. Some are going to be closer than others, and some are going to be a little bit more crowded. It's not just going to be 1 versus 1. We're going to get into some 3 action as well here. So stick around. The ratings are going to go up on the show. But the first one I want to talk about is the Rams situation. Puka Nacua, wide receiver 6 overall after a brilliant rookie season. ADP 9 overall. Or you can still get a piece of the Rams, Cooper Kupp, at wide receiver 21, ADP of 35. D-Bro, let's start with you on this one here. Now, I know you are Mr. Puka Nacua, but I know you also like a good value. I have seen your tank top collection, and I know how much they cost. So I want to take a look at these two wide receivers, and you tell me here. Cooper Kupp at ADP of 35, I understand the concerns with health. I understand the concerns with durability, but there were certainly moments where he looked like Cooper Kupp. And then Puka Nacua, not a stranger to injury himself, did get banged up a little bit last year. In college, did have some injuries too. It's something that Scott Bogman was, talking about a lot. I know in the college football show a year ahead of time. But tell me, who would you rather have, Puka at cost or Cooper Kupp at his?
Puka juice always, baby. I'm Puka Nacua. And the reason that I'm so ardent about Puka Nacua here is that we talk about continuously, we want to invest in second-year wide receivers. We especially want to invest in second-year wide receivers that flashed in the rookie season. Well, you can't do any better than breaking single-season records. I mean, so looking at what both of these guys did when they were on the field together last year, and we got a 12-game sample out of it, so weeks 5 through 17 last year, Puka Nacua led everything. Led these two in target share, 25.4%, led in air yard share, led in yards per route run at 2.61, led in end zone targets. He was the wide receiver 12 in fantasy points per game during that stretch, and Cooper Kupp was the wide receiver 23. So what we're currently saying in ADP is we hope that Cooper Kupp doesn't take another step back and Cooper Kupp produces like he did last year when he was on the field. But we're saying also in that same breath, well, we think Puka can probably take a small step forward. Wide receiver 9 in ADP versus actually producing as the wide receiver 12 as a freaking rookie. What if the step forward for Puka Nacua is he becomes close to legendary season Cooper Kupp? Like, we've seen Matthew Stafford support insane wide receiver production year after year after year. Oh, and guess what? We got the small snippet of when Kupp was out last year that Puka could have been on that trajectory last year if Kupp never came back. So who's to say that Puka Nacua can't do that in 2024? I'm not betting against him. I'm just going to draft him.
Erickson, what are your thoughts on these two Rams wide receivers? Who do you think is the better investment at their cost?
I agree with Puka Nacua. I think that the ceiling outcome for him is wide receiver 1 overall, right? Like, we've seen Matthew Stafford do it, and what it comes down to is the red zone usage, right? Because last year, Cooper Kupp, when you look at his numbers, like, if he wasn't scoring a touchdown, like, he was busting in your lineup, essentially. Like, he was held under 50 yards in a lot of his games last year, but he was still preferred in the red zone. Now with a full off season, Sean McVay, cooking up some stuff for Puka Nacua with the Puka juice, drinking the Puka juice, coming up with ideas to get Puka involved in the red zone. Like, that's how you see a Puka take another step. Is like, oh, well, now he catches 15 touchdowns. And you just look at Matthew Stafford last year. If anyone that played Matthew Stafford in fantasy and DFS, it's like every single week this guy would never throw touchdowns because it was always going to Kyren Williams. Like, Kyren Williams is always scoring these rushing touchdowns. So if you're seeing Stafford flirt more with 35 passing touchdowns, maybe 40 passing touchdowns, Puka Nacua is the number 1 receiver. Why can't he get to 15 touchdowns? If you're scoring 15 touchdowns, again, I've talked about this with Jamar Chase. If you lead the NFL in red zone targets, you have a really strong argument to be the wide receiver one. In the past, that's been Cooper Kupp. But if Cooper Kupp has lost a step or two, and now they're like, you know what, Puka is going to be our featured guy in the red zone, then you're cooking with gas.
I like that. I like it a lot. Yeah, very exciting. I would still take Amon-Ra St. Brown over him, but looking at where Puka is too, I still feel like it's hard to ignore that. And it's hard to get excited about Cooper Kupp based on the amount of games he's played the last 2 years now. It's not just 1 year now, it's 2 years. And I think that goes a long way. So I'm with you guys. I'm definitely in that investment. Let's get to the next one here. Let's go to Chicago. DJ Moore, wide receiver 16, ADP of 28, or Keenan Allen, wide receiver 27, ADP of 49. Now, Allen and Moore have not played with Caleb Williams, so we'll have a fresh start. We don't know who the favorite target might be. So, Andrew Erickson, looking at these two wide receivers on the board for the Chicago Bears. I don't know how many targets are to go around. If you want to throw a Dunze in this conversation, we can. But it is a rookie quarterback. It is the Chicago Bears. Not exactly a prolific offense in terms of throwing the football historically. We'll see if Caleb Williams can break that trend. However, Erickson, who do you like better at their cost? Is it Moore or is it Allen?
Well, full disclosure, I don't like either guy at their price. So
Okay.
I just want to be like upfront with that I'm not
Why?
actively looking
Is it
to
because
draft.
of the rookie quarterback situation? Because of the unknown? Like, what is it where you just like the other guys in the other players in that same range better?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think those are the two main reasons. Like, you're not really sure how the targets are going to distribute between three really talented receivers and a tight end and a rookie quarterback. I mean, traditionally, rookie quarterbacks have been really bad for fueling wide receiver production. Like, that's not something that you usually want to bet on year over year. Obviously, CJ Stroud was an outlier last year, but do we just assume that's going to happen this year, especially with three different guys? I mean, even last year, it was only two guys, right, that he was really fueling. It was Tank Dell, and then he got hurt, and then it was Nico Collins kind of blowing the top off of things. So the way I look at it is, all right, so we're trying to project, who's going to score the most fantasy points versus who's going to get the most targets in the offense. And when I look at DJ Moore as a player who has had bad quarterback play in the past and has always been like a wide receiver too, until this past year when he really broke out because he got above average quarterback play. But DJ Moore has a really strong track record of making the most out of bad quarterback play. So I'm trying to bake that into, okay, if Caleb Williams doesn't come out and is an above average passer as a rookie, which is very much possible, then I think DJ Moore, based on his sample size of his career and the fact that he is very efficient as a younger player, the way with Keenan Allen needs like 12 targets every single week for him to put up a good stat line, right? That's how he would beat you in DFS. But that's also why a lot of people didn't pay up for Keenan Allen in DFS, because it's like, if this guy doesn't get 15 targets, he's going to finish 6 for 60. And then he has to burn you with the touchdown. So with DJ Moore, if I'm looking at, okay, who can do the least amount with the least amount of targets? Well, it's DJ Moore, because he can be used downfield. He's great after the catch. But if Keenan Allen's not getting 12 targets every single week from the slot, I'm concerned about what his ceiling can actually be. So even though DJ Moore is the most expensive player here, I'm not confident in projecting how the targets are going to be distributed, but I am confident that if DJ Moore is seeing enough, that he can at least be efficient and use that to be productive.
I agree with Erickson, but D-Bro, I think I'm going to have a lot more shares of Keenan Allen, because where DJ Moore is going, he's going where Mike Evans is, where Jalen Waddle is, who we all like so much in terms of the discount. Derrick Henry, Travis Kelce's going in this range. All those players, we've done mock drafts together. Those are the guys that I'm looking at in that range. And I scroll down, I was like, Keenan Allen, he's a proven wide receiver. Maybe he does need more volume, like Erickson's saying, but I could see myself having a lot more shares of Allen. Who do you see yourself having more shares of, Allen or Moore, at this current pricing?
I'm with Erickson that I don't like either one of the guys. If I'm picking between the two of them, it's going to be DJ Moore. And I worry about the low ADOT for Keenan Allen. Some of the points Erickson made, but here's the other thing. I just saw what Shane Waldron did to JSN last year, and he turned a proven route running awesome prospect coming out, and everybody said, oh well, we don't know how much he's going to offer as far as how athletic is he, how much can he produce after the catch, how explosive is he, but route running's his bag. And Shane Waldron took that prospect and said, I'm going to neuter you into being a screen merchant. That's what JSN was last year. Had the 7th highest screen target rate out of anybody, out of any wide receiver. And you look at how this wide receiver room is made up. Do we think that's going to happen for DJ Moore? No, he's going to play the outside. He's not going to have that. He's going to take the lid off, or take the top off of defenses. Do we see that for Roma Dunze? Probably not. That's not his archetype either. Okay, well then who's left over for low ADOT targets?
Cole Kmet.
Oh, good Lord.
Hey, you don't like the answer, but that's the answer. I know you don't like it, but sorry.
Yeah, well,
because rookie quarterbacks don't love to check
Cole
down
Kmet.
to tight ends, because that's never happened in the NFL ever.
Gerald Everett. Come on.
Ugh.
It's going to happen. He's getting reunited with Shane Waldron.
Ugh.
It's going to happen.
God, let's not.
Mount Everett is finally going to
So let's put a
erupt.
button on this. So is the best way, if you decide you do want a piece of the Bears, to just take Rome Odunze late and say, I'm just going to play the injury game with old man time in terms of Keenan Allen?
Yep, that's exactly how I'm attacking this passing attack. I will be drafting a lot of Rome Odunze, and it comes down to, it's a similar conversation that we've made for the Cincinnati Bengals in previous years, the contingent upside of one Tyler Boyd, but Rome is just built different, man. He's got alpha upside. His usage, I think he's going to be used down the field. And what if Keenan Allen, this is final of the year, he does take a step back? What if Shane Waldron screws this up and says, hold my beer, and turns into a screen merchant? Like, I mean, I didn't think it was going to happen for JSN. Can't really rule out it's going to not happen for Keenan Allen. So, yeah, Rome is the bet I'd like to make for Chicago passing.
You have one more built different left for the show, and then you've used them all. You only have 3 per show.
Don't cap me, Joey.
I'm
Don't
just telling
cap
you,
me.
just choose it wisely, because we still have a couple left to go. Wide receiver 34. We have Jayden Reed of the Green Bay Packers, ADP of 63. We have Christian Watson, ADP of 87 overall, wide receiver 44. It's 10 spots different here. So, D-Bro, I'll start with you on this one. Jayden Reed, kind of a breakout star last year. Christian Watson, who was a guy, you love this prospect. Let's not pretend like you didn't, because you did. And with good reason. I mean, he came in, he was fantastic that first year with Rodgers, but has dealt with some injuries. Now, I know this offseason he is doing all sorts of different workouts, trying to do everything he can to stay on the field. So, Reed or Watson, who is the better fantasy investment at their cost this year on the board?
I want the wide receiver 1 for the Green Bay Packers. And when he was healthy last year, that was emphatically Christian Watson. I don't really understand why everybody's falling on the sword for Jayden Reed. Like, you want to draft a guy, and his ADP is higher, that wasn't even a full-time player in the Green Bay Packers passing attack last year. Like, this guy didn't even eclipse a 60% snap share for the entire season. He ranked 82nd amongst wide receivers in that. And do we think that the Packers are running any different this year? They're still going to run a lot of 12. They're still going to run a lot of 21. Jayden Reed's not playing the outside, so he's only on the field when they go into 11 personnel. And by the way, when Christian Watson was healthy, weeks 5 through 13, he led the Green Bay Packers in every single statistical metric for wide receivers that we care about. Target share, air yard share, yards per route run, end zone targets. I'm not done yet. First read share, first downs per route run. Legitimately everything we care about, Christian Watson led the team last year in, and you're getting a discount on the real wide receiver 1 for Green Bay, and people still don't want it. I'm going Christian Watson easily.
Erickson, I think the answer to the question that Debro was saying, why do people like Reed so much, is because recency bias. Because he had 8 touchdowns, because he was there, he performed, he was off the waiver wire, and he was productive. But he was also productive because Watson wasn't there. So you're getting the arguably better overall receiver at a discount. Is that the way to go? Do you agree with Derek?
Well, I mean, if I don't pick Christian Watson, I'm afraid Derek Brown's going to find me.
He might. He might.
It's like, I want you to draft
I've
Christian
got 7
Watson.
more categories that he was better in. I will bring them up. I will look at them right now, and I will tell you how many other categories that he was better in than
I
anybody else.
just like wide receivers that are built different, boys. There you go.
Oh, there it is.
Joey.
There it is.
I used it.
There it is. Ring the bell.
Had to use it.
Ring the bell. Somebody ring the bell.
That's the last one. But I agree, because when it comes to Christian Watson, and even kind of looking back at the way that Jordan Love really spread the love last year, like there really was no number 1 wide receiver when guys were healthy. It was a pretty even target share amongst all the players overall. So how do you get a player to separate from the pack in terms of fantasy points? Well, it comes down to touchdowns. And last year, that was Reed. Reed's the one that scored 10 touchdowns. But when you look at the usage for Christian Watson, what he had this past season, I mean, he had 13 red zone targets in just 9 games, and he had 15 end zone targets, which ranked 6th overall in the NFL. So, like, all the opportunities were there for Christian Watson, even when he was, like, half injured half the time. But when he was on the field, like, he was getting all the high-value opportunities that you'd want. So, I just think it's like, hey, again, Jayden Reed had a great rookie year, and he scored a bunch of touchdowns. But what do we see that regresses year over year? Is guys that score a bunch of touchdowns. And it feels counterintuitive, like, well, you have to fade the guy that scored so many touchdowns last year for the guy that didn't. But, like, that's how touchdowns work, right? It's really weird, but it's like if you look at the usage, it would suggest that Christian Watson's probably going to score more touchdowns than Jayden Reed if he's healthy. And that means he's going to be the better fantasy asset. So considering the prices as well, I'm here with Christian Watson.
All right,
and I'm afraid Derek Brown will find me if I don't pick him.
I just wonder how many more funds you got in the bag, dude. I mean, we had
Joe totally missed
separating the pack. What other Green Bay is? You got a cheesehead one, Erickson?
Spreading the love. I mean, you just turned 30 and you're just getting married. I can't imagine when you have kids what the dad jokes are going to be like.
They're going to be so
Joe,
good.
Joe, you didn't even take like the low-hanging fruit where it was recency bias. You didn't even take that.
See? He's on a roll. He's on a roll, baby. And Joe looks like he's in pain.
Let's expand the field, please. Let's expand the field. Let's talk about Houston. I'm going to give you 3 names here. Who is the best investment at cost?
So good.
Wide receiver 13, ADP 21, Nico Collins. Wide receiver 20, ADP 31, Stefon Diggs. Or wide receiver 30, ADP 57, Tank Dell. What I love about this group is literally from 13 to 20 to 30. Like you're seeing it 7 to 10 spots different there. And then you're jumping, somewhere 10 to even 15 plus in ADP. So Tank Dell was pretty cheap and he was pretty explosive. But Diggs is still a veteran theoretically that's going to demand some sort of target share. I think this is an easy one. I want Nico Collins, and I'm just keeping life simple here. Erickson, what do you think about these 3? Who is the better investment between these 3? Because these are 3 very different costs.
For me, I'm going with CJ Stroud's guy. And that is not Nico, and that is not Stefon Diggs. That is Tank Dell. Like, what else do we need to be convinced from CJ Stroud from everything that he says? Like, he's the quarterback, remember? Like, he gets to decide where the ball goes. So he's the one that, hey, I want you to draft this guy. He's the one that, hey, this is my superstar team. You know who's starting the slot receiver? You know who's on the team at all? Is Tank Dell. Like, he could have picked all the wide receivers in the NFL, and he picked one of his teammates, and that was Tank Dell. Tank Dell was just as good as Nico Collins was last year.
In all fairness, he picked a teammate that was still available. Like, I'm sure if Jamar Chase was on the board that year and he went, hey, can you go get Jamar Chase? Like, Tank Dell was available. Let's be honest.
But he still decided to, on his superstar team, right? There was pick your superstar team. Who's your starting slot? Tank Dell. Oh, what about Nico Collins and Stefon Diggs? Oh, they're not on my superstar team. Like, I'm taking, and again, this may sound like hyperbole or asymptotal, but it's like, this matters. Like the relationship, like we saw the brunch thing, right? Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, they're having brunch. Oh, they love it. They're meeting up. And what happened? Oh, Cooper Kupp's a wide receiver 1. And it's interesting because that year, right? It was like, oh, who do you like more, Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods? Like 2 guys that we liked a lot. It's like, oh, you can see the upside case for both players, but then it was Cooper Kupp leaving Robert Woods in the dust. So yes, I get the appeal with Nico Collins, with the Stefon Diggs, but everything that I've see, at least when Tank Dell was healthy last year, like that was the most explosive player on the team. Like he's the guy that's going to be in the slot. He's going to get all the favorable looks. And it's ultimately going to come down to, I think, the red zone usage. And I just think Tank Dell, again, he's the guy I want because that's the guy who CJ Stroud wants. And to come full circle, this was my galaxy brain take, right? Okay, last year at Ohio State, right, 2021, you had 3 receivers, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jack Smith-Njigba. Mm-hmm. Who was the most productive receiver on that team? The slot receiver, JSN. If that's Tank Dell in this offense, then that's the guy you want.
Thanks for that. That was really good. Looks like Erickson is getting a Dell. Wow.
Debro. Oh, jeez. God, I feel like I need to walk off of this show now after all that.
I want to walk off this show, but I have to host it.
Joe. You made it worse.
I just wanted to give Erickson a couple back
you got to walk off if you were just built different, but you can't.
Well, some of us just aren't, I guess, at the end of the day. Debro, Nico Collins at 21 overall, wide receiver 13. Stefon Diggs, ADP 31 overall, wide receiver 20. Or Tank Dell, Erickson's guy, at ADP 57, wide receiver 30 overall.
Oh, we've gone off the rails. I'm trying to compose myself.
I didn't know there were rails to begin with when the 3 of us get together. I didn't know that was an option.
Theoretical ones. Yeah. Theoretical ones. There's never any real ones for this show. But, dude, I'm torn on this one. Like, I'm so in between it.
I'm the only one that's not, like, I'm the guy paying the premium for Nico. It's unbelievable.
No, hold on. I'm torn on this one. I can definitively say Stefon Diggs is not even in this conversation for me. I get the reason for the value of Tank Dell because when him and Nico were on the field together last year, yeah, he outproduced Nico Collins. The reason I'm siding with Nico for this is I wonder in the second year of this offense, do we see, because Nico, dude, he produced insane numbers. And I understand on an efficiency level, like maybe some of this stuff isn't reproducible, but second in yards per route run, second in receiving yards per game, fifth in first downs per route run. The part about Nico that I think is so interesting is, could he turn into a true alpha? Like, could he command this ridiculous target share even with these two guys still on the field? And because we've seen it, guys. Like last year when Tank Dell was out, in the games where Nico played over 60% of the snaps, if you count week 13 when Dell left early with an injury, we're looking at a sample of 12 targets, 6 targets, 8 targets, 9. In the playoffs, 7, 10. Like, we could see Nico Collins if he takes another step forward, and with that otherworldly efficiency, like, what if he earns a bigger piece of the pie this upcoming season? Like, considering what he did when it was just him and how he just took over and he was the entire passing attack, I do lean towards Nico, although it's tough to sit here and push back really hard against Erickson's case for Dell, but I go Nico here.
One more. Let's go to Kansas City, an offense I'm sure we all want some pieces of. You got Patrick Mahomes, you got Andy Reid, you got continuity. I mean, it's what you want, but some new pieces. So a lot of unknown. So this is what the current price is for some of the unknown, and unknown for a guy who's coming back in year 2 because we don't know how many games he's going to play. So again, really sketchy stuff here. Wide receiver 36, Hollywood Brown, ADP 68 overall. Rashee Rice, ADP 80 overall, 39 wide receiver. 41st wide receiver, Xavier Worthy, ADP of 83 overall. D-Bro, let's start with you in this one. Is it Hollywood Brown who is the most expensive? Is it Rice with the unknown suspension potentially looming there, 2, 4, who knows how many games? Or Xavier Worthy, the rookie? Again, we love the speed, we love the upside, we like the tape, and he's the cheapest of the 3, but again, the most unproven theoretically.
I'm taking Worthy, and this one's not even close for me. I want nothing to do with Hollywood Brown. Like, I want nothing to do with Hollywood Brown. I don't even know if he could stay healthy for an entire season. The litany of foot injuries and ankle issues he's had, even that stretch all the way before he even entered the NFL, I don't want any of that. And we saw his efficiency decline precipitously last year, and now he's getting a bump because, he's going to KC, and it's the Patrick Mahomes effect and stuff. It's like, dude, and again, the suspension issues for Rashee Rice, we have no clue. It could be 4 games, could be 6, could be 8. And if you were telling me Rashee Rice was the cheapest one of this group, maybe I would gravitate toward him if there was a decent margin for it, but there's not. So for me, it's Xavier Worthy. And you look at his skill set and how it fits into the KC passing attack, he could take over that coveted role that we loved for Rashee Rice last year. Like, once he got that role where they were manufacturing touches and his first read share was so stinking high, Xavier Worthy could take over that role this year and just not let it go. Like, in 2 of his final 3 collegiate seasons, Xavier Worthy, against all FBS wide receivers with at least 50 targets, finished top 27 in yak per reception, 8th and 27th in that metric. And you're telling me he's got blinding speed. And you're telling me he's the one guy where I don't have the injury questions for or the suspension questions for. Yeah, I'm taking the value. It's Xavier Worthy, and it's easy for me on this one.
Isn't the real role, though, the old Tyreek Hill role that we're looking for? The explosive guy who...
Is that role coming back, though? Well, is it ever coming back?
That role can come back with a guy with 4.2 speed. I'm just saying, he doesn't have to be Tyreek Hill, but can he be the guy...
So you're making the case for Worthy here, right?
I'm curious about Worthy very much. I love the player. I love what he did. Here's the thing. I think what we're trying to get back to is that, because Patrick Mahomes, Erickson, has one of the biggest arms in football. I mean, we missed that on this offense last year because nobody could do that in this offense last year. And really, let's be honest, nobody's done it since Tyreek Hill left. Worthy could do that. I'm not saying he's Tyreek Hill. I'm saying he has similar skill set in terms of the speed. Can he blow past somebody on a go route? Yeah, absolutely he can. So, Erickson, what do you make of these 3 values? Who's the best value on the board that you want to invest in Kansas City?
I mean, it's Worthy for me. again, I'm not trying to overthink this. Like, you have a guy with blazing speed, with Patrick Mahomes as the best quarterback in the NFL, and he's a first-round pick, and there's a pathway for opportunities in week 1. Like, I'm just not trying to overthink it. Like, we can look at, Andy Reid doesn't really use rookie receivers and then to start their careers, and it's like, okay, well, maybe they've never had a guy like Xavier Worthy, right? Like, Rashee Rice was a second-round pick. Sky Moore was a second-round pick. Xavier Worthy was not a second-round pick. He was a first-round pick for a reason. So I just loved Worthy as a prospect. He checked off all the boxes of a guy that, broke out at an early age, great special teamer. Like, again, if he gets 4 targets in week 1, but he rips off massive plays on all of them, then it's like, great. Like, let's go. We're cooking. I just don't want to miss out on that week 1 game against the Baltimore Ravens when they do a play action and it's just like Deshaun Jackson and Michael Vick all over again. And it's going to be Xavier Worthy with Patrick Mahomes. Like, I don't want to miss that. Like,
right. Like, he doesn't have to be, I think that's a great one. He doesn't have to be Tyreek Hill. Can he be Deshaun Jackson at his peak? Yes, please. Like, give me that. I'm all in for that. This is a really interesting conversation and one that we want to continue on the YouTube comments. So, again, drop your comments below. Who's your favorite Kansas City investment? Your favorite Houston investment? Who's your favorite Green Bay Packer wide receiver investment? Same thing with the Bears and same thing with the Rams. We want to hear from you. Let's play the game together. Drop your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Ring the bell for notifications till it goes ding. And we'll be back with more amazing content, more discussions, more fun, more mock drafts, more everything, more fantasy football because it's coming, baby. Oh, baby. Fantasy football season's right around the corner. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Debro and Erickson, I am Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.